So I just first want to thank Gratz, and I want to thank who I've been calling the M&Ms, Mindy Bleckman and Mindy Cohen, who've been the people that I've been communicating with the most about the event, and they've been wonderful. So thank you, M&Ms. And again, thank each one of you for being here today. We were going to play a little bit of music, which didn't work out logistically, but I want to acknowledge the words from this song that I just crossed my path. And I later found out that the singer, the writer of the song, the singer is a Jewish educator and activist in Philadelphia. And I wrote her to see if she could come, but didn't hear back. But I want to tell you the words, just this verse. The song's inspired by Psalm 47. And it's so connected to the memoir. So that's why I wanted to share it. Healer of the brokenhearted and tender of our wounds, you account for every star and call each one by name. מונה מספר לכוכבים, לכולם שמות יקרא. And what's interesting is that line about you call each star by its name is in my novel, The Tremble of Love. Atanta is talking to her niece about the amazingness of every star being counted. So imagine how it is for us humans if every star is acknowledged. So there are many interwoven themes in Angels on the Clothesline. Among these themes is the resilience of the human spirit. And I'm going to be looking down at notes from time to time, so that's what I'll be doing. Which for me, the resilience of the human spirit, for me as a child and still, and all the years in between, has been rooted in finding light in the darkness. And when I couldn't, looking for it. And often it just wasn't so hard to find because it is everywhere. And so the selections that I'm going to share with you today will touch on the theme. There's many themes in the book, but I'm going to focus today mostly on finding the light in the darkness, and as well as reflecting on compassion, which is central to the book. Compassion for ourselves and the stranger, the one who seems to be other. Ding dong. So after I read to you, and I know many of you have not read the book yet. Not a problem. I will be offering context. So what I'm going to do is read some selections to you, and with some context, so that it's fine if you haven't read the book. You'll get it. And then afterwards, we'll open up for some questions and conversation. So before we go on, I want to invite us all to take a moment. You can close your eyes, or if you prefer, just lower your gaze so that you're bringing your attention more inward. This is going to be very brief. But I'd like to invite you to just let someone come to mind, or feel someone whose light is easy to see. It might be a child, it might be a grandchild, it might be a pet, it might be a beloved, it might be someone not alive, it might be someone that's a relative stranger, the person who opens the door if you live in an apartment building, but someone whose light is just easy to see, to feel. It might be the light of their kindness, of their gentleness, of their humor. So allow that to just come to your awareness. And feel it, notice it, however you experience it. You might even take a breath and breathe it in. Let yourself receive and be aware of that light. You might be surprised And it might be that more than one person comes. It's all good. There's no wrong way to do this. And then I invite you to just take a moment. You don't have to let that go, but add to it, just tune into your own inner light. And this might be a little harder for some of us. Perhaps it's easier to feel your inner love, your inner kindness, your inner well-meaningness. Whether you can tune into the light and love within you or not in this moment, it is here. It is here. And that light and love is with us in this room. Each one of us is a point of light and can be a vessel of love in our world. However small our world might seem or huge, and that means so much. So when you're ready, you can open your eyes or lift your gaze or bring your attention back to the room. And as you do, you can let that awareness of the light that's here, that each of us carries, let that stay with you, stay in your awareness. So a question, is this echoey? It is. So feedback on, if I talk this way, is it less echoey? Better? Good, because it's a little hard to do that. Okay. So give me feedback if, as I said, if you can't hear, it gets too echoey. So I want to begin with the book's epigraph, which the words are from a man named Morty Lefko. I read them in a book, and I was so moved by this part of a longer passage that I tracked down, where is this person? And I found out he had died not long before. And his widow gave me her permission and her happy feelings about me, including his words as the epigraph to the book. And what I just said is longer than the epigraph itself, but it's so beautiful. When who I really am sees who you really are, all there is love. When who I really am sees who you really are, all there is love. Morty Lefko. And I chose that for a bunch of reasons. It got me. And this book is about seeing. And it's about also the grace of being seen. So I'm going to read the book's welcome, which is very brief, and that will give a context and answer some questions about which people often ask about how the book came about. Welcome, dear reader, dear listener. A few words of welcome and context as you enter this book. This was an unexpected memoir. I was deep into writing and researching a novel inspired by my parents' stories of surviving the Holocaust when one morning on my way to my desk, I had a spontaneous vision of the young girl I was, crying in her bed. Responding to what felt like a summons, I sat down and wrote, I see you in your bedroom, lights out, your brother snoring in the next bed. Nightly, he drifts away mid-whisper, leaving you alone again. I was at once the child in that bedroom and the woman witnessing my sadness. Thus began my journey and this memoir of bridging time to be the presence missing from my childhood. I recognized the imprint of trauma. I felt the painful weight of grief, bigotry, and fear. I also saw the innate wonder and light that I carried within. which no measure of darkness could extinguish. Angels in the Clothesline is my story and also an invitation to embrace ourselves and each other with compassion, because it is never too late to see and be seen with love. So Angels in the Clothesline, again, for those who aren't yet familiar with the book, is written in a series of short vignettes. That's how it came out. I didn't know it was a book. I had to stop working on the novel. It was the pandemic. I brought home my son who has special needs to protect him. We were in lockdown. And suddenly, every day, I see you, I see you, I see you. Initially, all the vignettes began that way. But then gradually I shifted that, but they still are all experiences of the woman seeing the child, really seeing and being present with her, and through that entering the child's experience. So you'll hear you, and that's the woman experiencing the child, but then we really enter her, really. So, and yes, you'll hear, I just did it. I often speak in third person. I say I and I say she. I say I and I say the child. And I've noticed that, and I think there's a bunch of reasons, but one of them I think is because I know that while this is my story, it's not just my story. And beyond the particulars, there are so many people who know what it is to be made other, and other themes in the book. And children are sensitive. They feel things. So you'll hear me do that. You'll hear me refer to her or say I. So you'll know it's the same person. So I grew up the daughter of Holocaust survivors and recent immigrants to America, as they said. Our family lived on an isolated chicken farm in a rural area where no one had met a Jew before. In my home, my parents suffered what was not yet known to be PTSD. In the outside world, I learned quickly that in the eyes of my neighbors, teachers, schoolmates, and their families, I was simply a dirty Jew with devil horns. But despite all that, on the farm, I couldn't help but find joy. There, as I said in the welcome, there was pain for sure, and there was joy. So you'll hear both of those in some of the passages I read to you today. One of the experiences in which I found great joy, and this has continued on, is in words, with language. And so the book opens with young Annie. I now go by Annie. That's a story in itself. It's actually touched on in the book, how that evolved. And my parents couldn't say that American so they said Annie, or Bobala Quetzala, or whatever, or other things too. So in this opening passage, young Annie is almost five, and she is staring at her father's Yiddish newspaper. Can you still hear me okay? Everything's good? Okay. Marx. You aren't very tall, but just tall enough to see the newspaper open and flat where your daddy left it on the shiny white kitchen table with the tiny gold flakes, formica. Your mother calls it, proud of her modern new table, her new English word. You stare so hard at the long page, your eyes water. All those marks crowded together, tall ones and skinny, some with hats, boots, tails, big-bellied ones, wiggly, Some would push others out of their way if they could, like they're in a hurry to get to the end of the page, to jump off its edge, to rush out into the world. Your daddy will be back. We'll pick up his paper, say things in Yiddish to your sad mother standing at the sink, the stove, her back to him. Once in a while, she'll stop, wipe her hands on her apron, listen, or she'll scream suddenly, "Chas v'chalila, or let us such dogs, they should eat dirt." How mad she gets scares you. No matter how often she hollers, you never get used to it. Once in a blue moon, your daddy will laugh at what the marks say. Even your mother, who hardly ever laughs, might laugh too, never for long though. Some days, he looks down at the big crinkly pages for a long time, doesn't say a word, eyes moving from side to side under his thick glasses, when all of a sudden he pounds his fist on the table, making your mother's shoulders lift up and stay up, stiff, like someone was sticking a gun in her back. Only no one is. Not like what happened to the grandparents you will never meet, the uncles and aunts, only children then. For some, it was guns in their backs or in their fronts. For your mother's favorite cousin, Rivka, and her crying baby, a pitchfork. Most had to get naked first before the gas was pumped in. There was no escape. You want to know, ache to know how those important black marks, crawling, running, lined up like soldiers, like prisoners trapped inside those pages, turn into things your daddy tells your mother. How can he know their secrets? Just by looking at them. Sometimes he takes off his glasses, holds the newspaper close to his face, as if to hear the marks whisper their messages. And he does hear. But no matter how long you stare after he leaves the kitchen, no matter how close you get to those black marks that squirm like squiggly bugs stuck in straight rows, still their magic code stays secret from you. You ask your daddy one day, will he please help you learn to read? No, he says, when you go to school, you will learn. And it won't be the Yiddish newspaper. You'll learn to read in English. He says it like it doesn't matter how long it will take. He doesn't understand that you can't wait, that you don't care if the marks are Yiddish or American. You just want to know them. And then this is the last stanza. I'm not reading you the entire vignette, but it closes this way. Writing is making your own marks, your daddy says one day. After that, it's even harder to wait. You have to be as patient as the willow who never gets mad. You decide that when you can finally write, you will write marks that take away your parents' sadness, maybe other people's sadness too. You will write things not in their newspaper, good things that maybe will make them happy they are alive, even if none of the people they love still are. So the passion for words and learning the magic code, that continues. There's several pieces in the memoir that talk about writing. And I've worked a long time with children, as Daniel said in the introduction, and I know not just writing, but any art form or passion is such a nourishing force in the lives, not just of children, but humans, all humans. I mean, they're humans too, all of us, all of us. So in my case, it was writing that was sustaining. It was really a relationship with words, and then with, and I may read a passage with what I stopped calling Dear Diary, but Dear Hashem as I wrote. But I want to read just this one stanza from Reading. The first grade teacher shares her big announcement. Children, tomorrow you will meet the letters. The rest of the day you can't think about anything else. Don't eat most of supper, leftover chicken soup, boring carrots, wrinkly peas. You put your pajamas on early without anyone saying you should. Get into bed, squeeze your eyes shut tight so sleep will come fast and morning be soon. But what happens instead is you see the letters shining in the dark behind your eyes, like the letters were made of light. You tell the letters without making a sound how happy you feel to be finally meeting them, how much better life will be with reading. But they must know that already. So that's just a part of reading. So school was bittersweet, to say the least, and teasing, pretty vicious, shaming, being singled out. I was amazing that I was realizing one day as I was thinking about this, writing the book, not only did they in the bus search for my devil horns every day, but they said they found them. I hid them really well, but they always said they found them. See, they'd say, see the Jew devil horns? I wondered sometimes what they were finding. And it was hard in the outside world. And as you can imagine and have gleaned, it was really hard at home. And so these are just two vignettes that describe something of the experience at home. I'll take a sip of water. In bed. I see you in your bedroom, lights out. Your brother snoring in the next bed, head to head with yours. Nightly, he drifts away mid-whisper, leaving you alone again. Your sister, your little sister still, until she dreams. Warm tears roll slowly from the corners of your open eyes, enough to wet the pillow with your soundless crying in that room with 3 beds and the old wall piano. Nothing else but the narrow closet where a few clothes hang, mouse turds under the stool where you stand to reach a blouse. Why you cry is bigger than any one thing. The teasing that never stops, how they smell your skin and scream, "Pee you!" How it seems impossible to become invisible, no matter how hard you wish it. And then nightmares. Your daddy screams in the night, terrified, so different than he is in the day. Your mother whispers, "Nunya," her tender name for him. "It's okay, Nunya. It's the past." She kisses his tears, puts his head in her lap, strokes his face. She, the strong one, then. Listening in the hallway, you hold your breath, glimpse his red eyes, a sudden stranger without his thick glasses, without his strength. You wait for his crying to stop, for it to become quiet in the small farmhouse hiding under kind stars. It helps knowing they are sparkling up there where they can't be hurt, still shining no matter the darkness, no matter how dark those nights, filling with memories that haunt your fearless father. And this is one of the vignettes that reflects the outside world bigotry, recess, and ignorance, really, is the outside world ignorance, not knowing. Recess again. The boys playing dodgeball, the girls jumping rope. Cinderella dressed in yellow. How many times did you kiss your fella? 1, 2, 3, 4. They don't ask you to jump. You stare up at the row of birds on a wire, high toward the sky, next to each other, like friends. Mrs. Rusin is around the corner of the building and can't see what is about to happen again on the hard playground. How some kids will gather around you because it's recess. First, they'll pull off your warm hat, throw it in a muddy puddle, step on it a lot of times until it gets soaked. Then one of them will grab it, force it back on your head. After that is when they knock you down. Pull your skirt over your face. They'll shout, "See the little Jew who comes to school without panties?" Your face covered with your skirt, you will hear, not see them, laughing hard. The first few times you yelled, "I do have panties on, these are flesh-colored tights." But they yelled louder, and you gave up trying to tell the truth. You asked your mother for different color tights, but she said no. Then why? You didn't tell her why. So she wouldn't go back to Poland in her mind and remember worse things than kids making fun. Kids, she'd say, just to ignore, and your daddy would say, to punch. But you don't do either thing. You tried, just ignore them. It didn't work. Ignoring doesn't change a thing. They know you can hear them, that what they do makes you sad, and you aren't strong enough to punch that many of them. Now, a few fourth graders mixed in with third and some second from your grade come toward you. Faces scrunched up mean, ready to bother the little Jew who never fights back. You feel your face get hot, which usually doesn't happen. Red hot, like something inside you is about to explode. One of them shoves your shoulder, another pushes your back, what they always do to get ready to knock you over. But this time, your legs don't wobble like usual. Instead, they become like steel. You stand up straighter, taller. You think of what your daddy hollers when he has no more patience, when you better leave him alone or else. They won't understand it in Yiddish, so quick you think of how to say it in English. Stop banging me on my tea kettle. You holler it just like your daddy does, except in English. Order them to stop now, to leave you alone. Not one more word, not one more push. Just once is enough when your daddy hollers it. But you yell it one extra time to make sure they hear you, even stamp your foot. Stop banging me on my tea kettle. The loud, angry way you yelled it, not only one time, but two, means they will listen and finally leave you alone. They will know you mean it, will know how much you hate when they take your hat, tease about your tights and all the other things just because you are Jewish, not a regular American like them. For a second, they're surprised and don't do anything. Then one of them shouts, "Don't bang on my tea kettle. Don't bang me on my tea kettle. The little Jew has a tea kettle." They laugh so hard, they hold their bellies, can hardly catch their breath, yelling the words over and over like they are not the angriest thing a person can holler, but instead, like it was a funny thing, a joke. Maybe you said it wrong. You must have said it the wrong way. So instead of them seeing how angry you are and how strong and leaving you alone, they're making fun of something else Jewish about you. How you say American expressions wrong, get things mixed up, let Yiddish words and ways of saying things slip in. When your mother asks how your tights got torn, how they got blood on them, you say you tripped. It didn't hurt at all. But maybe, you ask carefully as you can, you should get red tights instead, just in case you fall again. She shakes her head, dabs mercurochrome on your naked knees. Just be careful not to fall. Then, while she puts the little bottle in the medicine cabinet, maybe red tights someday, maybe for a special occasion. You never yell again that they should stop banging on your tea kettle. You don't know how to make them leave you alone, to stop their teasing. Disappearing seems the best idea, but for that, you would need a miracle. And if God didn't give miracles to your grandmothers when they were forced into gas chambers, why would he give one to a girl in second grade in America who was only getting knocked down? And speaking of light in the darkness, this too, Helen. Red hair, freckles, buck teeth, shy like you. Helen is the only one who doesn't laugh, who never yells P.U. Instead, she lowers her head. When the rest tease, she looks like it hurts her, like she's sorry about what they do, about how you feel. One day, out of the blue, she hands you a note from her mother, Mrs. Huck, to yours in careful cursive. Would you like to come to her house for a visit? A gigantic surprise. Not only the note, a wish come true you didn't even dare to wish, but a surprise on top of that when your mother says it's okay for you to go. When you get there, Mrs. Huck opens the door, smiles like she's happy you came. The first Christian house you ever visited. She puts an orange on a paper napkin, says kindly, I know your people have dietary laws. I hope this is okay. You nod. Mrs. Huck says dietary laws, like it's all right to have them, even though they make you so different. No Oscar Mayer hot dogs, no ketchup, mustard, or baked beans without the kosher U. Can't roast marshmallows because of the gelatin from pigs in them. But none of that matters when you slowly peel your orange, the first time you peel one all by yourself. It's the sweetest, most delicious, most orange you ever ate, probably ever will eat. Sucking its juice, you feel like you can taste Helen's shyness, Mrs. Huck's kindness. Happiness tears rush into your eyes. You try to keep them from spilling out. Put the peels in a neat pile on the white paper napkin. You want to say thank you with your whole life, not just 2 words. And I often think how it's such a reflection of how a small act of kindness, again, of seeing someone and feeling seen, how much that can mean in the midst of great turmoil. And yeah, mostly for this child, For me, the light in the darkness was mostly not people. This child, I experienced great joy, I would say even ecstasy, soaring on a swing, and this is in the memoir, watching the dance of the willow in the rain, spinning in a meadow, washing with mud, lying on her back under a bowl of sky. Her best friends were her doll, her dog, the willow, eventually her diary, which she brought to the willow with her dog and her doll. And I'll just read you a couple of lines from diary. And we have just a couple more to go. Diary, the first is pink with the smallest key you ever saw. A tiny twist of a turn in its lock protects your secrets. At night, you tuck the small diary under your pillow to keep it safe, to feel the one you write to close to you. You write Dear Diary at first, then Dear Hashem, the coziest name for God you know, not one of God's names in your prayer book with the blue cover or in the Torah, more private, like when your mother whispers Nunya to your father, but not exactly like that because God is God. Hashem means the name. Soon as you write it, it feels like Hashem might hear you, even though he's so busy with children who need him more. Children with no parents, children starving in Africa, children in hospitals or in just crashed cars. You agree that God should go to them first. You write that in your diary, that you want him to go to who needs him the most. You know he might always be busy, but you write him anyway, for when maybe God will have time to read what you write. Dear Hashem is how you start every time. Right away, you feel not so alone. You wonder if maybe it's really true that God can be in lots of places at once. How happy you sometimes feel is the first big secret you tell Hashem. Then you start to tell about the sad things. You try not to complain. You know your problems are nothing compared to real problems. So nature was a huge refuge for this child, huge, huge consolation refuge. And I mentioned that I would lie on my back in the grass looking at the sky, night sky. The stars were, and that was referenced in another vignette I read to you, just that they were shining up there was like amazing to always see them and count on them. So this is called Catching Stars. And when I was citing books before, someone mentioned that this was his favorite in the book. So I'm going to read it and dare to sing some of it, which my sister's the family singer, not me, but we'll go for it. Catching Stars. I see you waiting, something you are good at. It's easier some places than others, like now, this summer night under a blue-black satin sky. You sing, Catch a Falling Star. Catch a falling star and put it in your pocket. Never let it fade away. Catch a falling star and put it in your pocket. Save it for a rainy day. Over and over, because those are the only words to the song. Your favorite, Perry Como, sings it with a voice smooth as darkness, like he believes there are beautiful stars you can catch if you watch carefully, wait for them to fall. You believe it too, even though you wouldn't tell your parents you do. They think almost all good things are too good to be true. To catch a star and keep it in your pocket would definitely be a too good to be true thing. Catch a falling star and put it in your pocket. Never let it fade away. You close your hand in the pocket of your shorts around a star you pretend fell that you caught and put there. Your other hand palm up to the sky, ready. You walk farther from the house where the darkness is darker. They won't hear you sing loud. Catch a falling star and put it in your pocket. Save it for a rainy day. You sing it like Perry Como does, happy and free. After a while, you think maybe it's okay if you don't ever catch a real star, that it's enough to look up at them sparkling like God was winking at you with a whole lot of eyes at once. You lie down in the grass, look up. At first, it's hard to keep singing. The huge sky above you makes you quiet. Then you start. Whisper now instead of loud. Catch a falling star and put it in your pocket. Never let it fade away. Never let it fade away. When you feel a tear of happiness roll from your eye, you touch it with your fingertip. Imagine it's a star. So one more to close. Skipping ahead. United. United. A dream come true. Seeing those huge photographs on the four walls, children from all over the world, the beautiful colors of their skin, the shapes of their eyes, hearing their music on records, listening to them talk and sing in all their different languages, how they laugh with their eyes in the same language as you, no matter where they are. You never felt this way before with a bunch of children, like you belonged, even though they're strangers, but not really strangers, because it feels like you are all part of one family. Your first time at the United Nations building is when you all go to New York to visit Tante Ray, who doesn't come, but packs tuna fish sandwiches to take because you never know, she says. You are too excited to eat anything after the tour that ends in the gift shop with pictures of children from the whole wide world. You don't dare tell your parents how it feels, like you are finally in a place you were waiting to be your whole life without knowing how much you were waiting until you found it. A place where all your wishes can come true because these children are holding hands. It doesn't matter how different they are. No one is left out. The next time we'll be at the World's Fair, when you hear it's a small world after all, you'll cry for the whole ride. Eat your eyes so watery, it will be hard to see the children dancing, but you will hear their voices sing the same song in all their different ways. Your heart will want to bust out of you from being so happy to see them together, wanting peace as much as you do, wanting there to be no wars, wanting nobody to boss children, to hurt them, to kill them, wanting children everywhere, to have clothes to wear, food to eat, places to live, books to read, wanting them to be free. You decide someday, when you are a grown-up, you will work for UNICEF. We'll help children be free who aren't yet. We'll make sure they have the things they need and they deserve. The biggest one of all, respect. Because with that one, you are pretty sure the rest will come. Thank you.